In this video, we're going to discuss proteins and their building blocks. And we're going to start off by discussing what monomers, polymers have to do with the large macromolecule. In proteins, our monomers are small building blocks called amino acids. And many amino acids are linked together at the ribosomes to create a peptide chain. A peptide chain is linked to another peptide chain to make up a polypeptide. Polypeptides are polymers of proteins. You have several polypeptides that are linked together to make up a complete protein. Mono means one, poly means many, and then macro means giant. It's a large molecule that's composed of two or more polymers. And here at the bottom you have those examples. Okay, so let's talk about proteins. If you see that visual there, you can see that it is a long chain of amino acids or polypeptides. And proteins are folded in a number of different ways. Protein folding is actually very important, but that is what a complete protein is going to look like in general. And what you need to know that it contains carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur. Here you have a myoglobin protein. Okay, some protein functions and examples. You have enzymes like lactase. Enzymes speed up chemical reactions, and lactase is a specific enzyme that breaks down the sugar lactose. You have defense proteins, you have storage proteins, you have transport proteins, you have proteins that act as hormones, you have receptor proteins, and you have proteins that are involved in structure. So just to talk about the different functions and examples, casein is a storage protein in milk, and hemoglobin is a transport protein in the blood. It transports oxygen all throughout our body in the bloodstream. It's that protein that holds oxygen. Insulin is a type of protein that regulates blood sugar. We have proteins on the outside of cells that act as receptors, meaning they receive messages from other cells, other types of chemicals in the body. We have proteins that are involved in movement, and then we have structural proteins like keratin. Keratin makes up our hair. We have collagen, which is another type of structural protein. Here's some examples of protein functions, and you have a picture here. Enzymes, which is another video. Enzymes are extremely important in the body. We have enzymes that are catalyzing all types of chemical reactions, breaking materials down, and also building materials within our body. Here they give you the digestive enzyme catalase, and catalase is in many organisms. It helps to break down food molecules and turn it into different things that the body needs. Storage proteins. Again, we mentioned casein in milk. It's a major source of amino acids for baby mammals. Plants have storage proteins in their seeds. Ovalbumin is another protein in egg white, and it's an amino acid source for a developing embryo. Defensive proteins. We have proteins that act as antibodies. They fight off viruses. They fight off bacterial infections. And then, of course, we have proteins that are embedded in the cell membranes that allow for transport of materials. We have another, again, we mentioned hemoglobin. It contains protein in vertebrate blood, and it's the protein in our blood, and it transports oxygen from the lungs to all other parts of the body that need oxygen. Hormonal proteins. We have proteins that coordinate all kinds of activities in the body. Insulin, as I mentioned earlier. It's secreted in the pancreas and causes other tissues to take up the glucose, and it regulates our blood sugar concentration. So we need insulin. Insulin is that hormonal protein that allows us to unlock cell membranes to get blood sugar in there. We have receptor proteins, and those are on the outside of cells. The receptor proteins that are taking in signaling molecules released in the nerve cells. We have contractile and motor proteins responsible for movement. Actin and myosin are in the muscles, and those are proteins that allow us to contract and move. Structural proteins, again mentioned, keratin is the protein of the hair, feathers, horns, other skin appendages, and I also mentioned collagen. Collagen and elastin proteins, they provide a framework in animal connective tissues, and they're very important structural proteins, especially as people age. So here is a general chemical structure of amino acids, polypeptides, and proteins. Okay, the primary structure here is showing that valine, glycine, serine, leucine, these are all specific amino acids, and you can kind of see their chemical structure here. Again, the amino acids are composed of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur. They're linked together here in this little secondary structure, and here you have peptides or polypeptides, and then the polypeptides, okay, are all attached together here in the entire protein. So again, amino acids, those monomers that make up polypeptides, which are polymers, and the polymers